Scott, or is it back? Okay.
I'm going to work on this mic here.
Okay, sure. If you want to give that to him.
Yeah.
This will leave you guys alone. I'll give you that.
All right, can you hear me okay? It's a clip-on with no clip-on, so we're going to make it work here. How are you?
Great.
See you in time, okay. Maybe we'll stay on time here. I am beyond pleased to be here tonight. This is a true honor for me. This is like a full circle moment in terms of Scott was one of the first people I met when I moved here in 2010. Actually, the first person I met called me a cake eater because I decided to live in Edina. And I just stared at that person and I had no idea. So I met Scott for breakfast at the Lowry. He was authentic, he was honest, he was transparent, and it was very refreshing, at least coming off that last one. So we have a finite amount of time here, so we're going to try to go through it just out of respect, but we probably, this fireside chat could probably be twice as long. But Scott's is almost needs no introduction here. A Duluth native, an alum of Dartmouth and McKinsey, a successful entrepreneur, being CEO of both GovDelivery and Structural, now a venture capitalist and Mairs Power, a Mesa sponsor. Thank you. Civically active, local politics, Osborne 370 building, on the board of the Minnesota Star Tribune, an accomplished skier, a certified race official with alpine skiing, and he actually even has, for us nerds out there, his own Harvard business case study on GovDelivery. So with that, please welcome Scott Burns to the stage. So from the outside, Scott's path to success probably seemed preordained, where everything he touches turns to gold. But Scott will be the first to tell you nothing was preordained, nor was it a straight line. In fact, Scott claims his career has been one big application of the lean startup methodology, one of constant iteration, opportunistic pivoting, validation, and learning from failure. It is through this lean startup lens that we're going to look at Scott's career. And like I said, we don't have enough time to give it full justice here, so just view this as the tips of the waves of a very special individual. Time permitting, we'll do some quick fire Q&A and then open it up to the audience. All right, sound good? All right, Scott, this is your life. All right, so let's start it off. So early 90s, alpine skier, you're probably going to go to the Olympics, right? That was your mindset?
Yes. First, I know we don't have time for a lot of gratuitous things, but I'll just say I really appreciate the chance to be here. So many friends in this room and people I admire and don't know as well as I would like. And one of the best investments I ever made was when I've invested in other Mesa companies. We have something at Mairs Power we've invested in that's getting mentored here. I got a call from their mentor. You should really look at this company. And John, who's very humble, of course, the morning I met him, I was like, I need to get some mentorship from this guy. So I didn't have to go through the Mesa process. I just attached to him, and it's been a marvelous relationship and friendship over here. So thank you for all the kind words, and we will go quick. Ski racing, my Spirit Mountain opened about around the year I was born in Duluth, and it was an incredible gift. For some odd reason, my brother's a super talented ski racer. He's 6 years older than me, Morgan Burns. He's a lawyer at Fakery. None of our companies are probably big enough to work with him anymore. But he was a great ski racer, and he's so much older. He was my idol, and there was really never a choice. I had to do it. My sister did it, I did it. And I wasn't as good as him, I wasn't as athletically talented, but something happened around 14, and around that time I had a huge surge and was, easily the best person in the country for a period of time. And it was pretty wild. It's when you are that good at 14, you don't imagine that's your peak, is all I'll say.
But so here we are.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Next.
30 years later, you're not skiing. What happened? What was the pivot, if we can sort of?
Yeah, so we went along to follow through. It helped me leave Duluth, see a lot of other things, travel the world. Ultimately, I moved to Colorado for a year while I was still going to school. Which exposed me to all kinds of things I wasn't seeing. I traveled with cake eaters regularly because there were a lot of skiers in Edina, and met incredible people. And then I went to Vermont. If anybody here has heard of Michaela Schifrin, her name will come up again during the Olympics. I went to this high school that she went to in Northeast Vermont with most of the other best skiers in the country. And at that time, we attracted a lot from the world. And a couple things happened. And I can't quite put my finger on it, but when I am in groups of skiers from that era, they're all like, "Did you get hurt?" And I'm like, "No, that's actually, I just got worse. I got like 5% worse every week for a couple years." Or at least I sort of stagnated, and it was unclear what happened. I was working incredibly hard. I maybe wasn't a natural athlete. The skis changed. A lot of people with natural athletic ability started to get better at skiing as the skiers who were just good technical skiers kind of faded a little. That got a few people actually, and it really got me. So I barely, when I was at Berkford, I'm the only person to ever go to ski academy to get worse at skiing. I wasn't going to school either, so my life was not advancing. And I had to pivot. I mean, it was just a tremendous failure. It was just constant. I did get into Dartmouth with skiing. I wouldn't have gotten in otherwise. And that actually changed my life incredibly.
So you get to Dartmouth, you start thinking, creative writing, civics, that's your path there.
Two things happened. I did the ski team for a year. There was a huge recruiting class, and I told the coach I wasn't as into it. And I ended up leaving the team, and then I did two things. I was really interested in writing, I'd always been interested in. I'm like, now I have time to do it. And when you're used to being really good at something, I went in and I'd be in a creative writing class or a journalism situation at Dartmouth, and I was like, gosh, I'm about the middle of the pack, and it did feel like where I should head with my life. It would be kind of, already middle of the pack in a room. I don't know if you've ever heard of an author from Dartmouth. There have been a couple in history. The middle of the pack in an early class wasn't a good sign. And so I started working a lot on political things at Dartmouth. My mom was a school board member in Duluth for years, and that introduced me to technology, amazing people. We put together an incredible student campaign that was sort of the idea generation for my original company, GovDelivery. And on the night of the election, the senator I was working for, the guy running for Senate who'd been in Congress, they announced he won. We didn't have the internet, so we hopped in a car to go to Concord. I'm like going to claim my place in this guy's office. I've been organized to think my whole life was organized around going to work for him after he got elected. And I walked in the door and everyone was crying. They had CNN miscalled the election. And it's easy a guy to look up because his name is very memorable. It's Dick Sweat. Richard Sweat. He goes by Dick. And he's a real guy. He was in Congress. And it was good for name recognition, not good enough. And I was like, holy crap. And I got home, and it was, there was an 11:59 deadline either that night or a couple nights later or something for corporate recruiting. And I started firing out resumes, which I sent out with a typo to everybody, McKinsey, everyone else. The eye bankers caught it, and that may be how I ended up in consulting.
You're okay. It wasn't on the PowerPoint.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So skiing, no. Civics, no. Now you're at McKinsey. You're in like the top of the to the top of the world there. Strategic consulting.
That was a more positive pivot. I mean, and one of the reasons we'll talk about the transition of entrepreneurship to VC a little bit, but I love McKinsey. It's just an amazing place to go. And I was there cynically. I was like, if you can't win an election, you should go into the business, you know, and maybe make some money and go back to politics later. And I loved it, every minute of it. I mean, I embraced it. It was super challenging. I was traveling around. I was working with Jack Dempsey, incredible guy who was a Mason mentor. But it was the dot-com boom. And then I think for the first time in my life, I went sort of towards something new in a positive way instead of a negative way. And I just couldn't imagine watching that go by. And that caused me to leave. I was the first analyst in my class to leave. They actually changed the rules the day after I left. I got an offer to come back, but I left, and I went to a startup in Colorado, and that was the next step. I was the eighth person, pre-revenue, wasn't called software as a service, but it was multi-tenant SaaS, doing renter screening in Colorado, screening renters for apartments.
And so you were there for a while, and then wasn't crushing it from my understanding, right?
Yeah, the company was doing well, and incredible life lesson, but the people were super unethical and difficult. And it's great to see that early, because you don't actually see it as often in life as you think you might in an early stage of life. Like there's a bunch of crooks out there. They're really, we all know that's just not true. But twin running the company from Virginia, we're in Colorado. My boss, who was amazing, ultimately became the CEO, took it to exit. The twin hired his twin brother to kind of look over. And that twin brother who was running sales, who was briefly my boss, actually stole all the IP from the company. And I started a competing company after I left. So there were tons of firings and inquiries, and it was actually pretty wild. And I remember thinking, okay, this is a great business, but it's really not worth it. And I had an epiphany as I hadn't gotten into business school yet. I got in like 2 days after I quit, which is kind of weird timing. But I was like, whether I get in or not, this is not worth it. And I will not dedicate my work. I don't need to get into politics and save the world or anything, but I just agreed that I wouldn't work on anything that I felt like was bringing any negative things into the world.
Just out of curiosity on that point for a second, because a lot of times people early in their career will gloss over what they know is wrong in their gut. Why did you have, before your business school acceptances, where did you find that core strength to say this was wrong and I didn't want to be a part of it, particularly after leaving McKinsey and in the heat of .com, because I'm sure the business seemed attractive, at least on the outside.
A lot of you know Tim Welsh is kind of well-known guy in town. Actually does a lot of angel investing and wonderful human being. Worked at US Bank, was at McKinsey at the time. He wasn't a partner, he's not that much older than me. And at McKinsey, I was staffed into a project with a guy in Chicago, and it was finally a strategy project. They'd been jamming me into ops projects, and I was like, I gotta get a strategy project, I got this project. And Tim walked into my office and said, I can't help you multiple times, but I can get you off this project. And I was like, no, I gotta do this project. He's like, you know who it is with? He's worse than you've heard. There's a partner there who ultimately got kicked out of it. Tim knew his reputation, and I slept on it, and I didn't take his advice. Oops. I ended up having to confront that individual on a major issue, like a red line issue, and he went after me, and I was like, not doing that again.
Got it.
So
No scar tissue.
Formative, yeah. The scar tissue helped. I mean, yeah, we all have a lot of war stories. That one resonates. Tim's been with me my whole life now, and I was like, you ever have any advice? Can I get an open ear?
So, again, you get into Stanford. Stanford accepts you, kind of the Harvard of the West. Congratulations, you're off to the West Coast, except for you don't go there.
That was basically, so I had done the entrepreneurship thing, and I came back here to help a friend start a company called GovDelivery, which actually still exists. He's running it in Egan, I think. And we started working on it, and we had the idea for GovDelivery. GovDocs is labor law, government compliance, kind of a middleman GovDelivery is a software digital communication platform for government, and we're cruising along, but not getting any investor interest. And I really know that that's going to be very necessary. Neither of us know how to program, and so we basically I paid the deposit, and I gathered everyone around and said, giving my shares to Zach, and we're going to wrap it up. And then just a week later, we had one investor meeting left, and the guy committed. It was just wild. It was the guy named Jeff Brown, who was a McKinsey partner who had also invested in Simon Delivers and done a little angel investing. And I spent a lot of time thinking about it, called my mentors, and about 3/4 of them were like, you'd be crazy not to pursue the company. And I'd expect them all to try to talk me out of it. McKinsey people said, if you go to business school, you're coming back to McKinsey, you may never be an entrepreneur. And it was pretty amazing. And then like 3 days later, the dot-com boom busted, and I was like, I'm the dumbest person on earth. What did I do? And I had an email in my email box where I was like, I'd like to defer from Stanford. I have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do this business. And the response from the head of admissions was, you have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to come to Stanford Business School. And I'm like, oh my God. And that email hung with me for years after. I mean, it was 5 years later when I felt like I maybe had made the right decision. It's wild.
So you start with GovDocs, GovDelivery. So you pivoted kind of out of posters into e-government services, kind of right out of the
It
gate.
wasn't a pivot, it was an ad.
An ad,
Yeah,
okay.
so we decided we're going to do both. We have a small side business already generating cash, a little bit of cash, and we're just going to do both businesses. And probably dumb to take them both on. It actually hurt us at times in fundraising, but we like the idea of having the cash flow. And I don't know, there was no LinkedIn articles to read about focus at the time or anything. There was no Mesa. Being an entrepreneur in Minnesota was like being a drug addict in a basement. It felt like there weren't like other friends or anything to call. So we did both, and it wasn't a pivot, and I wouldn't have given up business school for the way blockbuster business that I was not very passionate about.
So did you know that there was something beyond? Did you see the e-delivery of services, e-government services as the reason for abandoning business?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's when we raised the money on
Okay.
and everything, yeah. So that ad had happened in the early part of the summer as I was working mostly full-time on the business while I was waiting to go to business school.
So it's around 2000, you do this, so a couple, 3 years, you survive the dot-com bust. You have the big vision, we talked about vision earlier, to help connect all of our clients with one another in a network. That's the vision for GovDelivery. You don't have enough clients though, you don't have market power to implement it. So around 2003, instead of working with local, you make the strategic decision to start focusing on federal clients. Talk about that.
Yeah, I had a mentor do this like really simple chart, and it was basically like, if the time to close a deal, I don't know, I won't try to hand wave it for you. If the time to close a deal doesn't go up as the deals get bigger, keep going after bigger deals. And I was like, that's the simplest thing I've ever heard. And at the time, our biggest deal was like 20 grand, or maybe now it was like 40 grand by then. Annual ARR, and it might have been Wayne County, Michigan or something, or the State Department of Insurance in California, and I started flying to DC and talking to federal government agencies, and I was like, I don't think these are going to be any harder to sell than City of Ramsey. What are we doing? And the software was a little more developed, and government didn't have any security rules about the cloud yet, because we were so early, so we just went after it. And the thing that happened is I went all in. I got our COO to run the company. I'm like, this is our only chance. And I'm going to just sell. I'm just going to sell. And, I don't know the market. So at that point, there's a lot of tuition to be paid, but you don't know it. I get all these signals that we're going to close like 4 or 5 deals. I'm telling the team the cash is running very low. And I'm like, stick with me, we got this. And I think I had, 5, 6 deals teed up that we thought were going to close. And I'm like, it's going to be at least 4, maybe 6. And we closed one. And in federal government, when you don't close it by September 30th, you just have to wait a year to do it. Unfortunately, we didn't have a year of cash. There was real challenges, and it was a blow. It almost caused me to quit. I was actually talking about a job at IBM at the time, and I had my marketing leader. I told John this story. We wanted to. She's like, "You got to come out to coffee with me today." And I said, "I want to talk about it." I thought she was going to quit, and she's like, "Everyone thinks you lost your mind." So it was pretty dark, and we sort of, well, I mean, some of the team, and this is the good thing about Minnesota, people did not leave in droves. Would have happened in California, I think, and I just kind of regrouped. I will say that the skiing failure was very accessible to me as a memory. You can come back from things, and my partner Zach had also had a plunge in skiing after he made the USD team, and so we just started grinding it out, and we started closing more state and local deals. And I'm really grateful for this, but he believed in me, and I was like, I really think federal is going to take another year, which was a lot to ask. And the next year we had like 9 or 10 prospects, and we closed like 11. Mm-hmm. And suddenly, everyone believes in me, for good, man. I mean, I gotcha. It's hard to not believe in me after that 24 months of pain. But I turned the team around, the business around, everything almost overnight. I mean, we were ready for it operationally because we had been a year earlier, and it was pretty crazy.
So that co-founder was the supporting mechanism in that dark time, that belief system that got you through that period.
Yeah, this could come up if we talked about investment a lot. I'm not a must be a solo founder, must be a co-founder type of person. But relationships get formed, over a longer period of time. I think that people sometimes believe nothing makes me more nervous than like a co-founder speed dating party.
Right.
And we're like, my partner at Mairs Power, I met the same day I met my wife. And I would trust. He literally was in my will before we started working together. He was the financial executive. He doesn't get anything. But that's this relationship I had with Zach, my co-founder. We traveled the Northeast and Canada and the West racing together. And when I was racing, I was the worst guy on the U.S. quota, and he was always the best guy because he was a few years ahead. He was very mad to be at the race, and I was happy to be at the race. So we got to know each other that way, and then we formed our partnership and relationship through thick and thin. And he's the kind of guy you want to marry because he's like, I have chosen you and committed to this relationship, and I am not backing away. It was amazing.
I love it.
Yeah.
So 2004, 2005, you start to get traction. You win a big UK deal, almost on a short cycle there. We won't go deeper on that. So it's 2004. So it's got to be up and to the right from there, right? You start to have the federal deals. You go into the university market. Your team is perfect, right? It's all up and to the right from there.
And we had not just university market, but a couple other markets where I was like, hey, we went into federal, let's pick these adjacent things, and it was a painful set of lessons. We went into university, spent about $1 million doing it, got no clients in a year, and I don't know why I made the decision there that I didn't make on federal, but I was like, my gut was the fact that they didn't close anything in a year isn't because it needs another year. And I'm not sure I was right? I didn't run the test all the way to the end, but I also didn't have to bet the company on it, and we didn't. We totally pulled the plug. I let the whole team go at universities. When we had a couple other things like that, it was pretty, still a lot of iteration, and it probably culminated two things, but in 2008, when Obama got elected, we were really excited, and all of his people came in with a lot of digital expertise, and they were like, well, we'll be kicking you out of the whole government. And I'm like, we have like 70 contracts by then, that's gonna wipe us out. And so I basically moved to DC to try to work on that. It was incredibly stressful, leaving vacations and missing my family and all that stuff. And we barely got them to commit. And 3 months later, we were appearing on Fox News every day because Obama had sent emails out from the White House promoting healthcare. And I was getting death threats, and Zach was getting death threats. And it was another, one of these moments where I'm still young, not prepared for it. And I really am thrown into the fire. And so it was just, there was no smooth moment. There was no we're hitting every sales target, everything's going great.
25% team turnover during that time as well, changed the culture of the company.
Yeah, we had a weird thing. We almost sold the company in '08. If anybody remembers '08, we were going to sell to a public company. I promised my wife a new house by a certain date, and that was a public company, and their stock went down 80% on their way to going bankrupt. In the middle of the transaction, which I ran up a $230,000 legal bill on, and it was just another one of these you can't believe it, you cannot believe it's happening type of situations. And then I'm just going to help jump back, if I can. But '09, the second place player in that transaction that we chose not to sell to came back to the table and bought us at the last day of '09 for 25% more than they were looking in '08. And the Obama story and everything, it's a little intermixed in the time. The timeline's not perfect how I described it, but there was a lot going on and a lot of struggle leading up to that transaction. And that was the beginning of another whole deal where we had to basically become worthy of this PE investor that had just invested in us. My brother, when we got that transaction done, was just so you know, you will be fired within 6 months. These guys are not giving me the keep this young CEO vibe. But I lasted 6 years.
Yeah, that was 2009. So, and then now, just end state here, sold in you exited in 2017. Walk through that and where the company is now.
Yeah, it's a really great story in a lot of ways, but also a lesson that we can give to young founders, I think. So we sold in 2016 to Vista Equity Partners into a merger. I had tried to merge with this company before and it had fallen apart. Basically, I hadn't gotten the backing. I didn't get the backing I needed at the time for a variety of reasons. And Vista Equity came and bought the company I was trying to acquire, and then basically said, we're going to buy you or we're going to sell them in the next 6 months. And we had already had our company sort of on the market, and we got a transaction done in 2016, just before the election, on the theory that Trump getting elected was going to wipe us out on the federal contracts, which was right, but about 8 years early. So they were, the partner on the deal was crying the night Trump got elected. He told me that Vista had 100% predicted that wasn't going to happen. I figured it was going to happen, so I made the right bet, but it didn't affect their business at all. They grew it dramatically, all the things we positioned, and they resold it for, we sold it for $150 million. They sold it for over $1.5 billion 5 years later. So not only did I not have a very great spot on the first cap table because of all the stuff over time, but then you see the business go on to get sold. The GovDelivery part was about half of that. So my COO, a job that if he arrived in town earlier, John might have ended up with, my COO has made now 50% more off the deal. He joined in 2015 than I ever made. He's an amazing guy. He deserves every penny. I just deserve twice as many pennies. but that it didn't go perfectly, but it was an amazing, from the depths of where we were.
Yes.
It was hard not to celebrate the whole thing.
Yes, I mean, that is a tremendous success story, and all the persistence and pivoting and evolution of the business. This is what the reality is. This is most of startup life. It is the grind. It is not the Forbes 30 under 30 type bullshit that we see all over, but I won't go there. Okay, let's keep it going. Let's go to structural. Next company. I just want to quick compare. We're good on time. We're great. Compare and contrast it. So, GovDelivery, organic idea. Now you're in High Alpha Venture Studio. Talk a little bit about High Alpha and what a Venture Studio was.
One of the people I most admired while I was building the company was it's a little bit, I'm thinking about this a lot of AI right now, actually, and the different trendy businesses we see that are, sometimes you'll see a category, there's 4 businesses taking on the category, right? And I was like thinking of going to the white space, and some people go to the trend. In any case, there was a business called ExactTarget, launched in Indianapolis just after we launched GovDelivery. They actually had one of their co-founders here, and that business was just up and to the right. Very different experience they had. There's sort of there's an article about like wartime CEOs and peacetime CEOs, and I brought it to the CEO of ExactTarget. I'm like, which one am I? Because I would consider myself more a wartime CEO. I had to grind through it. And he was like, you just smile and stay positive and everything goes great. Well, they did it. They really did a good job, and they almost acquired, they were digital marketing for the general world, and we were digital marketing communications for government. They looked at acquiring us a couple times. Ultimately, Salesforce was looking to buy us, and he was working there after he'd been bought by Salesforce. And he's like, got a term sheet on Tuesday, canceled the meeting, flew out and met with Mark Benioff and quit. So our deal fell apart, and I couldn't reach him for a while. And then about 2 weeks later, I'm like, I heard the news. Seems like, he's like, yeah, I was really the big sponsor. I don't see this happening for you, but I'd love to mentor you. And he started mentoring me, and that's how we formed a relationship. And he had been a sort of mentor, but it really kicked into high gear then. Just really wanted a chance to work with him. And I sort of felt like it was an unfulfilled part of my destiny to have a chance to collaborate with them. We really get along well. And anyway, when GovDelivery was selling, I told him I had an idea for a business. And he said, we've already started a business, sort of, that overlaps with it. But why don't you come in? That thing's not doing that well, but we got a couple customers. I think you can pivot it towards what you want. So it wasn't straight up, studio started it and I took it over. A little more of a partnership, but that's how it ended up. My idea was, I was very overconfident at the time. GovDelivery had been on an extremely good run. So you start to trust your own BS, kind of. And I was like, I can come in there and, I'll do this and this, and I understand these plays, and I'm ahead of the market on this. And it just, so I'll raise a bunch of money on the back of the success of GovDelivery. And some of that worked. We got like 10 million in VC raised in the business, and we started pushing really hard, but unfortunately it just wasn't as easy to sell, so it was a little bit of a grind. And then COVID took a vision that we had that was very big. This company structural was meant to be an internal LinkedIn for big companies, more or less, but there was a lot of data ideas and AI ideas behind it for better connecting people and sort of automating some level of connectivity and workforce optimization across big teams. And we worked with like Optum and Procter & Gamble, and some great companies, hundreds of thousands of people on the platform. It certainly made it to a certain level. But for 10 million invested, their standard's pretty high at that point. So we ended up, after COVID, we made all the right calls ahead of COVID about where the world was heading. I literally had a paper I shared internally on how I believe the future of work was remote and hybrid a year and a half before COVID hit. And there was no rewards for that in the market, because what actually happened is COVID hits and every software company in the world is coming into our space. And so just no reward for it'd be like me having a good idea for a product that Target is much better positioned to sell, and I can't get any momentum with it before Target offers it under their brand. It was crazy. So we ended up being basically an app inside of Teams and a really good partner to a company in St. Paul that ultimately bought us in a good deal. A lot of my team's still there, but it was another kind of grind. I don't know. Anybody know how to catch a tailwind around here? I don't know.
Looking for a tailwind. So you sell that in 2022, so about 5 years after. Just how did that deal occur? Because you were marketing with them already, and so it was a natural extension of that.
Yeah, they were closing.
And it's Agio,
is a great logo company, amazingly dynamic company that came out of, speaking of pivots, it started as Ember's Restaurants, and now it is a $500 million plus digital marketing and employee engagement firm. In any case, they were closing very big deals with our software as assistants, and we weren't getting a very big share of those deals, so we got into kind of a weird spot where we're worth a lot to them, but we're not getting a lot from them, and they invested. That slowed us down from trying to move on from the relationship a little, and then they just coincidentally sold off a business that they were a main owner of, that they had kind of spun off of their company. Huge transaction, chase, hundreds of millions of dollars, and that created some cash flow so they could buy structural.
And then you stayed on for a while as chief of staff, helped lead a large acquisition, and then you switched over to Mairs Power. So talk about that.
Yeah, I love mentoring, and I really love what's happened in this community over my lifetime, you know, and I've kind of, even with angel investing, tried to give back. I wish I'd gotten a lot more money. I'm never going to go to Naples or anything. I just keep recycling it here. And but I put some back, and I developed over time, I guess, a theory of how I felt the investing should go, and I almost executed on it after GovDelivery. I looked at joining one of the local firms. I looked at a couple national firms that I was going to pick up the local office for, and then I just actually Joy Lindsay, who many of you probably know, was making the speech that I was sitting at, and she's like, I love about entrepreneurs that they imagine what they could accomplish if failure wasn't a possibility and go for it. And it just like put me under a lot of pressure to take advantage of this frothy market, get the 10 million, see what I can do with it. I don't know. I should have done I had other much more interesting, in retrospect, offers to run larger companies or join a VC firm or whatever. But I always had this idea of the VC firm, and I've been a little frustrated that some of the VCs that have launched here have very quickly became more national firms based here. And I was like, my belief is if you're gonna do a regional strategy, you should really do it. And commit to it, draw a border, and really optimize around the things that make it possible. So that's what I wanted to do. That's why I didn't do it the first time. And then Mairs Power, which is a longtime big investor in public companies in the Midwest and now well beyond. It's an $11 billion asset manager. They wanted to get into private investments. They started by hiring John Bergstrom, my partner, and I mean, the day they hired him, I was like, why did they call me? And he's like, stay tuned, you know, I'm working on it. And he was an investor in structural too, so he was like, why don't you finish up with structural? And
Give me a return on that.
Yeah, that's how I ended up making the pivot. I wanted to be a venture capitalist in 1999. My idea was to go to Stanford, go to business school, go to McKinsey, go to venture. And so just a fairly long distraction. Now I'm on my planned career path.
Obviously. So what's the hardest thing you need to watch for as you pivot from operator to investor?
I think the default answer to that is not to think you can get too involved. But I'm well practiced in that at this point. I'm not, the 30-year-old version of me would have had a harder time with that. Since John does some work at one of our companies, it's really risky of me to say what I'm good and bad at, by the way. He probably knows better than I do. But we, I think not understanding the job. So my job is to take people's, to get people to give our funds, our organization money, and to give them more back. And that's the job. There aren't other things about it. It's not an economic development engine. It's not meant to be a diversity engine. It's not a Scott's Friends engine, whatever. And so I think I had a theory about that, but it's still hard for me. I love entrepreneurs. I don't love saying no. I would love to fund every idea I see, but I think I've evolved over the 2 years. It's been over 2 years now. You seem much more comfortable with what you're doing is amazing. Let me explain what we do, and I'm gonna we're not gonna be finding a match in this situation, and that has been it's been taking more discipline than I thought to remember what I'm being paid to do now.
So I asked this question when I did a fireside chat with Reed and Mary Grove. How quickly do you know when a founder is someone you can get behind?
Not very quickly. You know, I sort of make I'll say that, like I made the comment on speed dating. I think that if you're really quick to assess people, you may have like tremendous intuitive judgment, but that plus data plus time, I like to see people multiple times. The first impression of Chad Halverson would have been a pretty strange impression. You know, he's just not what I was expecting, and I don't know. I mean, I had to meet him a couple times. I'm like, this guy's amazing, you know, and I beat the door down to give him 50 grand for angel investing. I mean, I wish they gave him more. Not everybody follows the same pattern, and in fact, entrepreneurs are pattern disruptors, and I really try to stay fresh in that. And some people may either be more intuitive or they may be less aware of what we're doing. We're trying to find people who will do things other people won't do. So why are you looking for people that are like other people? And I don't know, I would be so yes, it takes a long time. I have a system for doing that. The first thing we do is assess the business, because we have criteria around the business. We're not betting on founders only. And then assess the founder, and we have a very aligned process on that. See them multiple times, see them with other people, catch them in different situations, get them on the phone, get a text message, challenge them, tell them they're wrong about something. You know, I mean, I have the same I would do with an employee, but it's a little more aggressive, and then we try to find people that they didn't refer to us that know them, which is a big part of the regional strategy. And I don't care if they went to high school with them, or if they're on the soccer team, or
So a lot of longitudinal.
We don't do all those things every time,
Yeah.
but that's it.
So as a tech investor, AI, threats, opportunity, we talk about the collapse of SaaS. You're reading about the collapse of ARR as a metric. Whenever Jeff Bezos says, your margin is my opportunity. How do you think about investing in this world?
I think it's super high risk, but that's sort of the job. So it's risk and reward, but who wouldn't want to be investing at a pivot point in the economy? So we're trying to diversify our bets, bet on different things. So diversify our risk on the AI bets. So in some cases, we invest, Mairs Power Venture Capital invests in expertise-driven technology and tech-enabled firms. So B2B SaaS is a category, but it's also marketplaces, other industry disruptors. We're investing in a virtual sleep clinic, a finance solution. We're invested in the things there's the most of in the upper Midwest. That's part of the design. And the AI risk that I think everybody's avoiding is, I could do this in ChatGPT and you've just customized a little thin layer. Totally legit risk. I think it's going to be shocking to people how many of those companies kick ass though. And I've already experienced one that can't stop growing, even though there's more and more competitors popping up every day. So we have that risk in our portfolio, but I don't want to proliferate that risk. Then another way to mitigate it is market complexity, go-to-market complexity. So e-discovery AI is a legal AI thing. You can look for a legal document with AI in ChatGPT, but upload it and tell ChatGPT what to do. These guys built a human-driven business to do e-discovery, and now they're building a tech-driven business to do it. They understand the channel conflict, the pricing, the legal issues, all that stuff. So you're betting on the market complexity. And I think it's really, I don't know that I'm right. We won't know for 10 or 11 years. It's a little like a ski race though. It'll just be a score. It's not like going to be a big subjective thing. And I think we're just trying to diversify our bets and lean into the fun of it. I mean, holy crap, like Honeyland Rental by Owner, you guys know them. They have no developers, and they crank out software like crazy because they're AI optimized on everything, and it's super fun.
Do you think the Mairs Power parent company, which is much more safer, is going to be a challenge long term if this risky bet is slow to materialize?
Well,
I
yeah.
may not say that publicly, but you know, it's,
Uh,
are you viewed
yeah,
as an
they are,
outside?
well, they Mairs Power doesn't make decisions abruptly. So I would say that they have gone into this relationship thoughtfully and this idea thoughtfully, and so thoughtfully that, you know, of the 60 plus million we have under management, a huge chunk of it comes from the people on my floor, which is pros and cons. I put in individual money and then get their spouses to approve. I don't know, I guess I would go ahead and move. Yeah, look, I love
See you in 7 years.
I mean, I think
committed.
what's interesting is, you know, these are people who bet on stocks all the time. You know, they put, I mean, how much do you think a firm like that loses when a major local public company has a major issue? And they just have to walk in and make their coffee and go back to work. So actually, they're more aligned with me than you might think on the risk side.
That's good, I like that. All right, why don't we do this? Why don't we turn it over for some audience questions? Just raise your hand. We covered it. Everything is covered in this call?
Is that any plant questions?
I know. Jim?
Thanks, Jim.
Scott, what, I mean, again, this is, you know, hard to predict, but, okay, so if you're thinking about how industries are gonna have to change with all the different things that are going on in the world, how is the VC world gonna change in the next period of time?
Yeah, that's a super good question. How is the VC world going to change in the next period of time? It is a amazingly kind of, it's a business that has incredible repetitive components and incredible bespoke components. So managing a deal pipeline, trying to source deals, you can do it in repetitive ways, but the best deals you find are usually because, you know, John's mentoring someone and sees something in the business other people don't see. So I think it's getting the things that you can do more of, where more is a value creating thing, and automating that is something that VCs are already doing a lot of. So what you'll see from us, we're already doing a lot. Just a quick review of a pitch deck and a summary of the things we should be looking at, all of our diligence, which is much more thorough than it would have been 5 years ago, because we can automate huge chunks of it and we throw everything in a folder, and then, you know, we get the whole chart completed, basically, from all the stuff that's been sent to us. So you can automate a lot of things. You can't automate, you know, listening to a person's voice when they're talking about whether Jeff is a good entrepreneur, you know, and I should invest in it. So I think one thing that's changing, and good firms are doing more automation and balancing that with some human component. I think there's a lesson in that for every industry, and you see that across a lot of industries. I hope that there's something left for humans to do in this world. I think that there's strategies opened up where you can take more human decision making now. The very eye-opening thing in Vista, I just gave a little talk on this at our office about employees, and very eye-opening thing about Vista Equity Partners, they take less risk on human judgment in their companies than anybody else. Simple example, if I post a sales job and I'm working for a Vista Equity Partners company, at least when I was there, I'm not, you know, they could have changed their process. I think this candidate's great. I think Jim's great. Jim gets a link, or he goes to a testing center, he takes a test. If he doesn't hit the test scores intellectually and EQ that Vista expects of a salesperson in this type of company, he never introduced me. So I'm just left out as a HR person until very late in the process. And I think that's, there's probably a lot of opportunity to do things like that. I think we do, as humans, think human judgment is worth more than it's worth. Unfortunately, it's probably a good bias that we have. But I think that there'll be some funds, and I've already seen some where they're like, send us your financials, okay, we'll put in 50 grand. They're like indexing on some automated process. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, I've seen that.
You've seen that too? Yeah. There's actually like 5 or 8 funds now.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost just the numbers will tell the story.
And they're like, I just don't think Scott's judgment matters.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting in like 5 years. What if those funds kill it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm at the end of my career. I'm fine.
Any other question from the audience? Yes.
You mentioned your regional strategy. What do you think differentiates what you're doing versus I'm in freight tech, so 90% of my competition is out in California. The only two I'm worried about are in Chicago and Nashville. What do you think makes your regional strategy work better for you?
Well, I think that venture benefits the stage we're at, the high growth, high risk, human risk stage of a business. It's much easier to find quality deals and to get access to quality deals if you're more local to them. But if you're in a region that doesn't have enough deals, so you say, I'm gonna do only ag tech deals, but I'm gonna be in Minnesota, you're pretty quickly gonna be looking in Asia too. You know, because there's just not enough deals to look at. And I don't know the perfect number, but my model says 80 to 100. I want 70 to 100 deals per deal we do. So you have to have a focus in the region that would allow you to look at that many deals and then call through them. And so what I think is beneficial in this, so we've designed the companies we're going after to align with the region and look at a lot of deals, and then we think we have better access, especially up to the Minnesota border, but we're working hard in Chicago right now. And we have better insight, better access. The things you need to generate alpha are available to us. And then we also have enough knowledge to know what kind of deals we can get in the region. You know, there's a pricing component in my job. How much am I going to pay for a deal? How easy it is for them to be able to raise elsewhere? All those things. So I just think there's enough that matters in local insight at this stage of venture that you're good. Jump up a couple stages, and capital is super fluid. So I just don't think it matters by the PE level. Even like a growth equity firm, I just don't think it matters where they're located. Arthur Ventures is one of the best firms in the world right now. And they could be located in Minneapolis. They could have stayed in Arthur, North Dakota. Honestly, with a good plan.
Tim, you had a question?
Yeah, it's, you did Venture Studio and you're now in the VC world. How do you compare or look at those as they might come from a community like this? You should both be in a community, or how would you look at those?
You said the Venture Studio has more of a community?
No, I'm just interested in how they
Yeah.
either or. Does a community suffer if they don't have a Venture Studio? You know, it's always nice to have capital for the market.
Yeah, we have some good Venture Studio activity here now. Like Rally's doing some of it. Rally's got a pretty stage integrated fund now, which I think is just a huge benefit, and I very much admire what they're doing. I mean, I copy them more often than I try to compete with them or Arthur. There's a lot to learn. Those are two of the very best firms in the country, in my opinion. We have them down here. Neither of them like to be on stages, so you're stuck with me. They're working right now, generating returns. It's true, isn't it? But I think, I love the high alpha studio experience. Here's what I like, is anything that brings more people into entrepreneurship. I think that is very helpful. And high alpha brings people like me who don't want to start from scratch again, and we're willing to do it because they de-risk it a little bit and accelerate it great. They get people from Best Buy, you know, or whatever, and it basically creates more people coming into the entrepreneurial ecosystem. The price of it is huge. You know, the studio, high alpha's changed its model a little, but I mean, they take an incredible chunk of the equity, and that has its pros and cons. So I would just say that there's a lot of benefit to having different approaches, whether it's what Idea Fund's doing. I don't like EOS personally. I've not had a great experience with it. We can talk about that another time. But I've had some good experiences with it, and it's not the model I would put on a startup. But I mean, Traction has done a great job. They have some incredible businesses. Techstars, again, I'm not a Techstars fan. I don't love businesses that come out of Techstars usually. Too much pitch, not enough action. And at the same time, some of the best companies in the country have come out of tech startups. And who am I to say? So I think it's good to have different options. We are a very different option. We benefit greatly from Groove here at M25 and Long Jump in Chicago and other seed and incubator firms. And I don't know, the ecosystem's pretty vibrant. It's just, it's very weak here for companies that get to Series A large rounds or Series B rounds. If they're not real star performers that can jump out of the geography, Minnesota's quite weak still. You're basically talking to rally, and then call around. And then I think Chicago's not actually much better, so the whole region has a little bit of a weak point around the next stage. But we've gotten very strong, I think, at this entry stage. It's actually amazing. 0 to 10 funding is, it's way better than some.
Yeah, 15 years I've been here. Yeah. All right, we're going to bring it home with 5 fast pitch questions. Are you ready?
I'm going to be really quick this time.
The person most influential in your career.
Zach Sabin, my co-founder at GovDelivery, taught me to be an entrepreneur.
What are you currently reading on your nightstand or Kindle? And which one?
I like paper, and I just started a barbecue solid book. I can't even remember the name.
Demon Copperhead?
No, never mind. I like on page 1.
Okay.
I was rereading The Goal recently. You've heard me obsessing about it.
Yes. Where's Sonny? Is Sonny still here? The Goal that's required.
I quote it all the time, but I read it in 1998.
Little known fact, in the Wharton Follies at MBA, I was Herbie of The Goal in our Follies thing. That's a whole side thing. That's over drinks. Okay, what one word best describes you?
I hope entrepreneurial.
Okay. What is the best location for alpine skiing in the world?
Yet to be discovered by me. I enjoy Breckenridge the most because I know it the best.
What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's over now. You know what we were doing.
Trust your gut. Trust your gut.
Maybe hold on to your cap table. I think it's really important if you like where you are, not to regret where you've been.
Okay.
And I that's a core value, and I think you get into the Marvel universe if you start overthinking different scenarios.
All right, so I think lean startup life here, the themes are consistent. He's had mentors, he's had pivots and perseverance. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it. Okay, well, thank you. I hope you folks enjoyed it. I know we stayed a little longer than we put on our calendar, but it was all really helpful. Thank you, John, for once again being kind of that probing interviewer. If you've been around Mesa, you know he's done it a few times. He's very good at it. So, and Scott, thank you for generous time to be with us tonight. So, we're done for the evening, and but I just want to again thank all of the mentors and mentees and partners who have come out tonight, and your continued support, your energy. That's what has made what we are today. Now going on 15 years, plus 15 years. We have 60 mentors. We last had 32 active mentees. I think we might adjust that number a little bit. And we're over 1.3 billion in revenue investing amongst all our mentees. So that's a testimony to the mentees, but hopefully it's the mentors been able to help. So Corey, thank you again for your hospitality and willingness to host us tonight. This was a really nice setting for us. And I guess I'll kind of wrap it up. I mean, does anybody has any questions or comments? I'd be happy to take them. Otherwise, we're done for the evening.